All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Emerging Technologies session. I want to first acknowledge all the great presentations we hear from this stage, and they provide valuable information for all of us and absolutely will influence how we look at emerging technologies, what do we do with emerging technologies, and influence our roadmap. On this session, Dave and I will collaborate, talking about AI and how we see it can be leveraged in SBS intelligent design or by utilities. But before I do it, I want to stress that artificial intelligence is not the only thing that we consider in emerging technologies. So earlier, you've heard Jason Kegel explaining how his team implemented new technologies in making more efficient development process. We also seen and been working on the concept of design container. Design container allows utilities to make sure that AUD is integrated in their enterprise, and it really addresses the challenges with asset management. We've heard this raised during the panel discussion, and we really want and encourage you to talk to us about the design container and actually also BIM workflows. Autodesk team presented some great roadmap of how BIM is important to utilities. We internally do a lot of work with the BIM. We have integrated products with SBS technologies, SBS APS services, and infrastructure, and we really want you to look at it and ask us questions. However, this session is all about artificial intelligence, so as someone mentioned, you can find a conference where we must talk about this. So let's dive. And all right. So agenda. Trust me, there was a word agenda. I don't see it. For this presentation, we have selected few areas, few topics that we believe will be of great interest to you, and not only to SBS. And we want to share with you examples of what we have learned and over the long period as trying to leverage AI in workflows. We are going to cover AI-powered tools like SBS Assistant, talking about how we can provide access to lots of important and relevant information internally. We'll look at AI Foundation Platform. That's a new thing, I guess, and it will be relevant to many of you who've been considering start using AI but don't know where to start and how that AI tools can be leveraged within your enterprise. So we'll present you one option, and as Al presented in union statement, it is a part of SBS portfolio. It's a productized. Pay attention to that. We also look at, they will help us to understand what MCP is all about and how we can leverage it within the product. And we'll look at using AI to improve and facilitate configuration of AUD. That's been, in SBS, we've started journey to AI long ago, before even OpenAI introduced ChatGPT. We've used machine learning techniques to do feature extraction, and as a part of our software, design software. And it has been a kind of a bumpy road, as you can see. So we have developed some key principles. Start small and be focused. Iterate and learn, adapt, don't force. You can read all these details. You may expect such a slide to be at the end of presentation, so it's kind of lessons learned. But because of us, we've been through this, on this road for a long time. Not only we've learned those lessons, we transform them into guiding principles. So that's why we want to present it up front. Here is how we do it. Here is what we use as a guideline. Those key principles, I hope it resonate with you, and we want to hear your feedback. We'll start looking at the way we've implemented AI technology and how we can you can leverage it in the same fashion in your workflows. And we'll use an SBS, we'll start with SBS Assistant chatbot. I'll start. We all know what the chatbot is all about, so I'm not going to explain those basics, but I'll start with the facts. Dave, you know how many pages are in AUD help?
No, I don't, Sergei.
All right, okay. 752. And if you look at internally, we maintain SBS Wiki site that has all the white papers and, you know, best practices, implementation details. It's over 1,000 pages. So think about this, and you may compare about with Leo Tolstoy's The War and the Peace book. It has only 1,200 pages. So we need to recognize the fact that amount of information that we share with the product and we want users to understand is enormous. So users need help. And fortunately, we believe AI can help, and that's where we've designed our chatbot. And you can see there's a live action going on, asking for next, what is AUD, and, you know, basic questions. But we trained our chatbot not only provide relevant information, but also not produce hallucinations. So real investment. So next question asking, can I use AUD to design a pool or a house? And chatbot would provide the answer, no, you can't. So that's the investment. We spend time training the model to provide relevant answers to users' questions. And of course, it has access to all information from SBS implementation teams, best practices, configuration, including AUD data model. We are planning to next release in September with GPT-5 reasoning, so we'll see a lot of great information. And Dave is going to show us a use case where that chatbot can be accessed from within AUD, which is really, really exciting. Moving on. Next, let's talk about Agentic AI Foundation. The best thing to explain it through the use case and the question. So what we're trying to do. Really, we have been doing the AI implementations for quite a few years. What we observed, every time we try to develop new use case or work on additional scenarios, change technology, we have to start from scratch. We have to build a foundation. So you need access to LLM, a large language model. You need to be able to implement RAG scenario to do index, create embeddings, and all those tools are available, but they are hard to work with and not user-friendly. So to accelerate this work, what we have considered and built Agentic AI Foundation, which is a framework that will help you and us, supports our efforts to really survive this bumpy road of AI. You'll enjoy the clear, easier ride with that AI Foundation. Important part for us, and that is, I've heard this from a few users and utilities, there's a constraint of using AI in the cloud, and so we can't share data and pass it and use it outside our network. We can't use it, even the name of our utility, to communicate with those great tools available outside of your firewall. That framework and all those services you accustomed to use from outside with the SBS AI Foundation available for you locally. And the best way to explain how it works, we look at quickly on one of the use cases. We use our foundation framework to build and multiple use cases. This is example where we use AI to help assess sites, to do site analysis for a substation. Like, you know, in the planning stage, you need to place substation, and there are pros and cons for each site. How do you evaluate it quickly? We can go the standard route of asking LLM questions, but we also build into framework collection of agents, and agents automatically can detect the user intent. I want to assess conditions and of that site, and they start immediately, they trigger it automatically, go after relevant information, extract it from whatever sources, external or internal. And that basically creates opportunity to dynamically be more efficient and build the quality response. So it's not only interaction with the user, it's ability to generate report, provide advice. So we have taken this use case, and we have built this AI Foundation Framework, agentic layer that includes, you can see all these services, RAG, rules, agents, vectorized data to store all your data files. And our framework allows you to basically add data, your data, to that framework and start using it. And that can be design standards, in industry historical data, because everything stays local, right? So there is no information that's passed outside. It stays on that machines or access services that are inside your enterprise local services or on-premise. And once you have this foundation established, you can build a number of applications. So we've developed Substations GTP. That's what this allows us to do planning exercise. But there are quite a few other, many other agents available. And the focus is provide you foundation so you can start building your try your use cases in a safe environment of on-premise. We have been talking about technology. I know you will probably have lots of questions. Quickly build this slide. We provide use Docker environment to help with the deployment in the local infrastructure. There are quite a few components inside, and it's always evolving, it's flexible. We not necessarily using one component all the time. It just depends on the evolution of AI, and those tools get changed every 2 weeks. I'm not exaggerating. Even like recently in May, Docker released Model Runner, so now you can run larger LLMs locally, like really inside the Docker, so you don't have to build all that additional infrastructure. You can look at more details if we want. We'll have time, we'll dive into more details. Important part that AI Foundation Framework provides all the APIs, so you don't run it as a user on a sitting on desktop. You can build your web application local to your environment, and it provides APIs, so you call APIs to drive the workflow. And we also, one of the issues with adoption of AI, if you go and start challenging ChatGPT with your business questions, you get an answer. But it does not really help you to track and look at all the details, how that answer was. I hope it will work. Okay, yeah, it does. So you'll see that as a part of framework, not only we provide services, but we also log all the information and explain. That is another key point that you don't get with the typical implementation, you access, but it doesn't really, you don't understand logic, how they arrived without deeper understanding. And that helps you to refine your processes and maybe adjust data, so it's a valuable information. And each agent will log the information and report. So now, Dave, it's let's see how we can integrate those AI tools in AUD, please.
So Sergei has done a tremendous amount of research into the use of AI. I've simply looked into how this can be integrated into the AUD product. And so this is about using a technology called MCP. It's really a protocol that was authored by Anthropic, one of the major AI companies, and has become a fairly standard protocol for interacting between an AI agent and applications. So what would the AUD MCP tool enable? Well, it enables basic automation into AUD. So you could think of it as a kind of API into AUD. So drive commands, what I'll show today, and we have prototyped, are really some really basic operations. But in future, you might imagine us exposing more elaborate APIs that are more powerful. Allow querying information out of the design. So this could be useful in many different ways, but allows basically the AI to not only send commands and instructions, but also to query information out. And then, of course, that could be used in conjunction with things like the SBS Assistant. If this were integrated with your own company's documents, then you could imagine that being integrated as well, so that you're getting a comprehensive answer based on SBS information, your company's information, the design itself. So all of that information can be fed into the LLM and used to provide a really rich context. And I want to note this is a research prototype. Nothing you're seeing here is, should be expected to be any releases anytime soon. Okay, so I just want to be very clear about that. So just want to kind of paint a picture of the key components here, and maybe this will also kind of shed some light on how some of these mechanisms work. So if you start out considering AUD, it's an application that runs on AutoCAD Map 3D. And then consider any kind of chat application, right? Like VS Code or any kind of chat app that supports a MCP protocol. I believe other coding tools or other kinds of open source chat tools might provide this hookup into MCP tools. Then there's the MCP tool server, right? So this is something that sits as sort of a bridge in between the LLM chat application and the AUD application. and it exposes certain operations. So in this prototype example, there are only really two operations. One is a query and the other is an execute. The query is just a SQL query into the industry model database, and the execute simply passes along a command to the AutoCAD command line. And so in some ways, it's very similar to what you would see in a just vanilla AutoCAD MCP implementation. And of course, then there's MCP implementation in AUD itself, and that's what receives the commands from the server. And of course, there will always be a LLM in the background, right? So in this example, we're using the SBS Assistant, which is hosted in SBS's Azure, and is based on a GPT 4.0, I believe. So these are the main components. And you can see that the chat application, as you'd expect, it just interacts with the back-end LLM to get your chat responses. But when it's enabled with MCP, it allows the LLM to know about those operations it can do, so the LLM can respond and say, I want you to execute some of those operations. And then once those operations are passed on to the MCP tool, it can then pass those along to AUD and then execute those in the AUD application. So let's look at a quick example just to make clear the kind of process here. So let's say I go into my chat application, I say, draw an overhead line in AUD. Well, it's going to send that to the LLM, and the LLM knows that there is a AUD execute function. So it says, hey, why don't you run AUD execute, and the LLM generates the command line. And then the chat application is going to send that along to the MCP's tool server, which then sends it along to AUD, sending it the command line. And then that's executed, similar to a menu macro. So you could think of it as the LLM comes up with a menu macro to execute. Another example would be querying information. So you say, how many transformers? And the LLM says, well, I can use AUD query and come up with a select count from EL transformer. And then it'll invoke that. That's passed along. It's executed in AUD. The value of 5 is then returned back from that SQL query. That value 5 is then sent by the chat application to the LLM again, and then the LLM would respond saying, hey, there are 5 transformers in the draw. So in this example, there is an AUD MCP tool server running, and then there is an AUD assistant command and function running in AUD itself, and then the back end, it'll be using the SBS assistant based on GPT 4.0. So.
Or any other services available local.
Yep. Yeah, and in a second you can see I'll show some variations of this, but this is the basic layout of this process. So if I can get the team share. Okay, so I've just launched AUD, and over here is a palette running this simple kind of chat window. So I'm going to go first test it out and say, is this the SBS Assistant? It says, yes, this is the SBS Assistant. How can I assist you? You'll also notice at the top it has listed out the MCP functions that are available, along with a description. And that's literally what's sent to the LLM, the name of these functions and a description of what those functions do. And it's from that the LLM figures out to use them or not. So let's see here. Let's have it do a simple AutoCAD operation. And AutoCAD line from 10 to 100. So you'll notice down here that it passed the line command, and it passed the coordinates for that line. This is because even if you use a regular chat app, they've been trained on enough AutoCAD information, they know what the AutoCAD commands are, what the command line syntax is. I've tested this by feeding it a lot of background information on AUD commands. This is one of the things this prototype doesn't have implemented, is the information so it can build AUD-specific macros. But I don't have time in this to go feed that information into it, but given enough background, it can then kind of fabricate AUD macros as well. So I didn't have time to go set that up, but you could imagine this can be used to then run AUD commands, lay out overhead lines, run things as you would from the AUD ribbon. So I'm just going to go and place a few polls. See, place about 5 polls. And let me take one of these and change the model real quick so we don't have all the same. I'll make one of these a 40-foot pole. So I have to tell it the schema. In the future, we need to expose the information to the LLM so it knows what the database schema is. But if I tell it and say, the EL poll table contains the polls, how many polls in the drawing?
We typically include that information, metadata about schema, as a part of the prompt initially that goes directly. So right now you see a granular approach where you explained exactly what's going on. That's a live demo.
Yeah, it says that, I'll say the model name and description, provide more info, tell me about all the polls. Then it gives it the information, lists them all out with their model names. They all the same. And not all polls are the same. There's one poll with a different model. It's a 40-foot. So you could imagine that once this is tied in with schema information so that the LLM can work out the table names and the schema of the data model, it'll be able to do a lot more useful operations like this. So this is a chance to just kind of think and imagine what this could be useful for, right? I think that's
excellent, Dave. Thank you. And you can reimagine the integration with asset management. So imagine asset management system also supports MCP. So it will query directly design as it's going on and may provide information about asset maintenance records of that pole. So as I drive design and I provide references to asset system, we can get live feed. So designer is aware, suddenly it pops up and saying, you know what, this pole has been scheduled for capital rebuild next year. Don't worry about this, proceed to the next. You know, that kind of communication, live communication through MCP is feasible, and that's how we envision future workflows to be developed. So now you can appreciate the workflow. You've seen it live, now you can read it and see how it works, and that was intended to stress it one more time. All right, so we are going on next important part, how do we leverage AI to facilitate configuration of AUD. And we have seen this slide in Al's presentation on Tuesday. We want to accelerate model development, reduce time, and what is the most important, impact the data and the maintenance of the models in AUD. And our guidelines, what we want to provide a no-code experience to users and user-friendly experience. That's basically resonates with what Dan mentioned, how they have used AI to write Lisp code, even though they haven't done Lisp development before, they managed to use AI. And that is a part of our practical approach to use AI. We want to use AI tools at the right place at the right time, and only just enough to enable and make our work more efficient. At the end of the day, that's what we want to achieve. We have a collection of standards, and you're all quite familiar with all the bundles of PDFs, so thousands of pages that include every cross arms and with details how you can do construction. And opportunity, and that's what we want to use AI for, is to ask AI, go ahead and figure it out. We'll gladly accept your input. And at the end of the day, what we want to see is a list of models with attribution as defined in the your construction standard, and also material list, and they are as defined in your construction standards, because that's what we need for our automation. We have used and exercised, and just want to stress, it's evolution. So it's like third evolution of this process, and we switched tools, but there are key elements, key components. We've used either Microsoft Azure Document Intelligence Studio or Amazon services for data extraction from PDF. It's well-known, well-established framework and provides an easy user interface, and we'll see how it works. We also added Copilot with VS Code to drive additional changes, minor adjustment to data structures. We use our SBS AI Foundation. Remember, I presented as the foundational tier to execute data processing scripts. Microsoft Dataverse is the way to easy way for users, for applications to store data and the Power Apps provide a nice user-friendly user interface. So it's something that can be configured, staged without doing any of development work. Copilot Studio, we created SBS Dataverse agent, and that agent is kind of in the core of solution. That's what it does, orchestration. It talks to OpenAI with questions from the user, generates queries, returns values, formats those values. So that's where all these components work together. Going quickly, we don't have enough time, but I'll at this moment, I probably won't be able to run all the demos live and present all the videos, but we will be available tomorrow. And if you have interest in any of presentation or components that we've outlined in our presentation, feel free to stop by, and we have up and running systems. We can show you details. We can dive at any level of details with you. And what's most important, bring in your use cases. So I just want to state it up front before I forget to do it at the end of the presentation. Your use cases is a critical thing that we are looking for at this stage. So we've started with extraction of data, and user-friendly interface, and you basically start the session, and you will be able to create your project. I'll skip quickly to the point, and we believe that would be done as part of delivery project. So our implementation team can create, and then we selected pages can be used to train the model, and you can see the process how we identify elements, and we're just highlighting the area and say what is that? That's a drawing name or standard name. And that becomes an element, and once the system, we define those elements, we execute, we train the system. Training is in the progress. We used, in this case, RUS standard with 700 pages. We used 18 pages to train the data extraction. And then once we trained, we run all this analysis, and as a result, system, in this case, Microsoft Azure Data Intelligence, generated a collection of JSON files with well-defined structures. All the elements we identified on the page, like materials table, will be as a table element in XML structure in a JSON file. All 1,800 pages. So and then we thought, okay, now we have extracted all the data from standards. That's cool. So why don't we ask LLM, here is all the data in the digital format. Can you find missing or mismatch in materials with our SAP system? And so basically we've provided tried to use a RAG approach where we've used that collected data to generate embeddings, vector database, and ask LLM to figure it out, and it didn't work, really. So whatever we tried, it takes a lot of prompt engineering to explain data to in the standards to LLM. So it really, we failed. So it too cumbersome, and there are inconsistencies in data that drive LLM really crazy. It starts generating, starts hallucinating. So this approach didn't work, and you on the top, you can see boxes. So we have identified elements in the standards processing framework, data extraction and data access. So now we looked at the data. I'm not sure you can see it, but reality is all these standards been worked on over the years, and there are multiple notation apparently they've used. So you can see the different ways of describing this information, tables, multiple tables. So there's actually, we found 8 different ways of how data can be structured and presented in the standard. So what we have done, we decided that we need to post-process this data. So we realize AI is great, but it can't do everything for us. So we let us normalize data, let's process. And what you see is a real life step where what we have done, I just copy, and that's important, I can pause. We have, the way it works, we know I need to write a script to post-process data and remove inconsistency in data. And the way to do it, as an implementation team, I'm copying and looking. Here is how I see it coming out of standard, but this is what I would expect. And when I put it in Visual VS Studio with Assistant, it immediately sees what my intent is, and it created a script to fix this problem in data. So that changes perspective on how we can use AI. So AI does the heavy lifting of understanding what you want to do with the data, and it does a great job in fixing data. We have done this like over many iterations, and I'll attest to that. It works. It's really, if you clearly state what you need, it goes through this hundreds of files, finds your use case, and translates all with the code. So we've been successful in this, and as you can see, we added to the process data extraction, and then we added post-processing of data. And as a part of post-processing, we leverage AI to do scripting, and it results in a consistent, produces consistent results. So we clean the data with AI, and now AI has a better way of accessing the data in deterministic way, building queries and not hallucinating. So we helping AI to be efficient, and I think it's fair. What you see on the screen is really architecture. Important part in the yellow indicates all the steps that been automated. So we used AI to train the model, extract data, build scripts to transform and put it into the database in a normalized way. So everything what you had in the standards in a graphic form, we extracted and put in relational database structures. And if we have time, ask me about how we've used non-relational structures. Cosmos DB, that was another pilot that we invested a lot of time, but it didn't work. So we now, our recommendation is go to relational structures, because LLM has a better way of building queries and extracting data. And at the end, now we have, as a result of this exercise, and think about that, your standard becomes digital, and it's available in the database. Now it can be queried. And we also have mechanism of pre-building, helping AI to what kind of queries can be executed. So we train and we deliver, and we deliver it on the standard database. And that standard database, not only for this customer or another customer, but we also develop that standards database where we can encode and use models, etc., inside the product. So that creates a tremendous opportunity for all of us to collaborate and build use AI in our delivery project. So this is the final stage where you can see on the left side the proper sample of page what is going on. We have asked and uploaded material catalog that is delivered from SAP, and I'm asking now AI, go ahead and compare for compatible unit A61 records that we extracted from the standard with the records that currently available in your enterprise system in SAP. And guess what? It runs and it finds the records, and that's a great use of LLM. It can compare, use fuzzy logic to understand that different syntax, but that's the same material. So at the end of the day, it gives you a report, and it tells there are some discrepancies. It found number of like either missing material or in one place or another place. So it's kind of important example of how information making standards digital can be leveraged in a variety of different workflows. So now we are transitioning to questions period. So do we have time for questions? Yeah, any questions? I guess not, so thank you very much. All right.
When do you roll this out?
That's a good question, and actually there are a number of tools that we put in the plans of products. The SBS AI. Sorry, yes. So the question was when SBS is going to release all those exciting tools and utilities can start using their workflows. The answer is we've considering there's a roadmap and a plan to incorporate those tools. One area like as SBS AI Foundation is available now. You can work with SBS, so we can share with you really the framework that you can deploy on-premise, and it provides UI asking you if you want to build Atmos Assistant or whatever utility with the local available data. You just drag and drop a point to SharePoint. It will start chunking through the data, and you start collaborating through the web services. Absolutely everything local. So that's the framework, and what we do at SBS, we maintain that framework. As you probably imagine, there's lots of changes. We follow up with the updates, and we will help you to keep your foundation up and running. So please talk to our team on the break about availability and how you can access it. All right, so we appreciate your patience and looking at what we've been doing. I hope you find it interesting. Any questions, and you will find if you have your use cases, you can please see us tomorrow. Dave and I will be available to work with you on your use case, just to see if there is a potential to solve it with AI. So, wow. Thank you. Thank you, Dave.